Welcome to this episode of How to Really Run a City, powered by Accelerator for America, the nation's leading do tank for cities. I'm Larry Platt of the Philadelphia Citizen, a nonprofit, nonpartisan media organization that seeks to reinvigorate democracy in the American city where it was born. Check us out at thephiladelphiacitizen.org. How to Really Run a City features two accomplished practitioners of the art of urban changemaking, former two-term Atlanta Mayor Kasim Reed and former two-term Philadelphia Mayor Michael Nutter. If you've listened to past episodes, you know the drill. If you're frustrated by the bickering and the just plain stupidity coming out of Washington, D.C., well, this podcast is a testament to the notion that there are really three political parties in America: Democrats, Republicans, and mayors who have no choice but to be practical problem solvers. In today's episode, the mayors are joined by arguably the nation's preeminent millennial mayor, Cleveland's Justin Bibb, who took office in 2022 at the age of 34. Let's get to our guest. Arguably the nation's preeminent millennial mayor, Cleveland's Justin Bibb. Mayor Bibb took office in 2022 at the age of 34 and has really eschewed the type of polarizing ideological debate that characterizes our national politics and is focused on tangible, practical reforms. Just a little bit of background before we get to Mayor Bibb. He's a Cleveland native, the son of a Cleveland police officer, firefighter, and the son of a social worker, president of the Democratic Mayors Association, co-chair of America is All In, a climate change coalition, a former Obama Senate intern, and before becoming mayor, he was chief strategy officer at Urbanova, a business that leads new initiatives to make cities safer, healthier, and more resilient. Really an impressive record, both background and record as mayor. So I want to get to that record and have you guys give your inimitable wisdom to him, and then of course he'll do the opposite if he's smart. Please welcome Mayor Justin Bibb.
Thanks for having me, guys. Good to be with you.
Good morning, Mayor. How are you?
Hanging in there. Just another day in paradise in the great city of Cleveland, Ohio.
Good.
Absolutely. Good to see you, Mayor.
Likewise.
Welcome, Mayor. Let's begin with something the three of you all have in common. The first time you ran for mayor, Mayor Bibb, well, the first time all of you've only run once, and in fact are headed, I think I can say with some amount of certainty, headed to re-election. But the first time you all ran for mayor, you were all running dead last in crowded fields. Yeah. Mayor Bibb, you were at all of 2% in the polls in December of 2020. And I think, if I remember correctly, Mayor Nutter, you were also at around 5% at one point.
12.
12? Oh,
yeah, and that was
you were, wait, you were at 3. Yeah, you were at 3.
Yeah.
So that's a bit. Do you all share an underdog gene? What is that about?
I think it's about wanting to win.
Yeah.
I'd like to hear Mayor Bibb's take on it.
Yeah. You know, I had never run for office before, and I think the reason why I was at 2% was because everyone probably thought my cousin Leon Bibb was my dad, and they felt bad for me in the poll. But really, you know,
explain who Leon is.
Leon Bibb was the first Black primetime newscaster in Ohio, here in Cleveland. Yeah. And so I had a little bit of name ID because of my cousin Leon.
It's your cousin.
Yeah, it's my cousin. Yeah.
Okay.
But what was unique about when I ran, it was at the height of the pandemic in 2021, and it really allowed me to have conversations in a very intimate way that probably would have been a bit harder if the pandemic wasn't in place. And you know, when you're polling that low, you show up everywhere you're invited, whether it's a daycare or a church with 2 pews. you show up
You know the
everywhere.
kids at the daycare can't vote for you, right?
Yeah, I know, but their parents can. So
I did a kindergarten commencement one time.
exactly.
Mayor, did you know what your polling number was before you
I had no
decided to run,
idea.
or you just
Someone
decided to
told
run?
me it was 2%. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's a good foundation. I can't go below 2, much lower than 2. So the only way up is higher, I think. So yeah.
It's so interesting. Go
Well,
ahead,
that's
Mayor
your
Reed.
own faith.
Mayor, tell us about your team. Tell us about the group of people who believed in you and your process for coming to the decision. Take
Yeah.
us into the room in the early days when folks
Yeah.
didn't know who you are, aside from being the cousin of a prominent news broadcaster.
Yeah. There are a couple key folks who really moved me to run. Obviously, my mom was a big factor. She was a little skeptical because I was leaving a very cushy job at a very nice bank in Cleveland, making good money to pay off these student loans. And she always told me, she would say, "Baby, we don't need another broke politician in Cleveland." But if you believe,
That's inspiring.
yeah, right. But if you believe this in your heart, and now is the time, I support you 110%. And then I made one of my best friends my campaign chairman, who is now my chief of staff, Bradford Davey. I trust him like a brother, and he's someone I want to be in the foxhole with when times get really hard. And then my campaign manager at the time was the executive director of the local county party here in Cleveland. Just a bright political mind, a no nonsense guy, and the ilk of a Josh Lyman from the West Wing. Just brilliant tactician and who understood the history of Cleveland politics, but where Cleveland politics needed to go. And I think what made our campaign different, as a first-time candidate, I just focused on being the candidate, not the candidate and the campaign manager. And not all candidates can say that. They want to be in the polling, they want to be in the fundraising, they want to be doing the website, right? In order to run a really good campaign as a candidate, you got to focus on being the candidate and let your team doing the work and really empower them to do the work. And that's, I think, what really allowed us to run a professional campaign in the way, a modern campaign in a way the city of Cleveland had never seen before in modern history.
Tell us more about your chief of staff.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting relationship.
Yeah.
That went from campaign chair to chief of staff. Tell us more about him.
Yeah. So he, his background, he used to work for Congresswoman Marcy Kaptur from Toledo. And then he went into defense work, working for a large global defense contractor. And then he did a lot of work around economic development in Cleveland before joining the campaign and then coming to City Hall. And none of my core team, from my chief of staff to my head of government affairs, had ever worked in city government before. And I'm a first-time elected official.
Wow.
And so we got a lot of criticism when we won, that I was just hiring my friends and it'd be like kind of a party at City Hall. But I, what we did though was during the transition, we brought a lot of seasoned business and government folk with kind of young, upstart, dynamic talent. And that really allowed us to have a very diverse team in the first term of seasoned talent, young talent, to really put fresh eyes and a different perspective on how we want to run the city.
What were the, that's a great combination. You need some of that. You obviously need, experienced people, but you also want to bring in that youth and that enthusiasm to really drive an agenda. And you put those two things together. What made you decide to run? What were the key issues at the time? I mean, I have said that, there are obviously some big personal decisions that any of us have to make. I think that, getting married, having a baby, running for office, are in like the top 5 of big personal decisions. Obviously, the first 2 are even more critical, but you're 30-some years old, the city is going through whatever it's going through, and you decide, I'm going to run. I've never run for office before. I'm going to run for mayor. Why?
I think there were three factors that really impacted my decision and rationale to run when I decided to run in 2021. I think the broad theme was Cleveland as a city and as a brand had been lacking in a positive national and global perception for a long time. And the world really didn't know all the great assets and strengths we had as a city. And I think historically, as a region for the last 2 decades before we got in office, we've done a terrible job of selling the Cleveland brand and the Cleveland value proposition. And I felt as if I could bring a different dynamic to selling Cleveland as a investable asset, right, for new talent and new investment. I think secondly, many residents were frustrated by the city's response to the COVID-19 pandemic. And as you mayors both know, mayors were uplifted and trusted and called upon in a way we have not seen since probably Dr. King's assassination in 1968, where, people were looking for truth tellers at the local level to get us through the pandemic and get us through the tragic murder of our brother, George Floyd, in May of 2020. And so I think the city's response to COVID was a big factor. Then I think thirdly, the murder of George Floyd. It really exposed these broad kind of fault lines in the city about race, class, income, and just a desire and hunger for bold, dynamic, visionary leadership. And so, I did not anticipate the run at 33 years old. I thought I'd, make a little bit of money, have a family, and then in my second act, probably, get involved in public service. But as the saying goes, sometimes you don't choose the time chooses you, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, we make plans and God lands.
Amen. And so, I ran like I had nothing to lose. You know, God rest his soul, Robert Redford, one of my favorite movies, The Candidate. Run like you ain't got nothing to lose. And that's how we ran the campaign in 2021. And it was in God's plan. And I think we've done a really solid job of recasting the Cleveland value proposition in a different way.
Well, unlike in the movie, I don't think on election night, I don't think you said, so what do we do now?
No.
I was just going to go there.
No, we had a plan. We had a plan.
Yeah.
Mayor Bibb, tell us about the hardest day you've had in office. Take us into it.
Probably the hardest moment I've had was actually 2 days before I was sworn in. So it's New Year's Eve. I'm then mayor-elect, and it's kind of like my last hurrah as a normal civilian, right? Hanging out with my buddies, celebrating the new year, getting ready to take on this new big job, this new big title with all this responsibility. And you fellas know this. You don't know what the gravity of what the job entails until you're in the seat. You can whiteboard it all day. You can read as many Bloomberg articles on how to be a mayor all day. But until you're in the seat and having to make the decisions and having to take those tough phone calls, you really don't know what to expect. Mm-hmm. So it's about 11 o'clock before on New Year's Eve, before we go into 2022, I get a phone call from our safety director that an officer had been shot and killed in the West Park neighborhood. And they call me to the hospital. And it's me and my incoming police chief managing this officer losing his life. And seeing Officer Bartek, his body, seeing the men and women of our police department and his family grieve his life. That's when I really felt the weight of the job. And I remember this vividly. I went home that night. I called my mom and I literally sat in the dark, had a glass of whiskey, played some John Coltrane, and just thought about what I was getting ready to get myself involved in, because I knew I'd have to take those calls and be in those emergency rooms a whole lot over the next 4 years. And that has been the case. And I think, that night really prepared me for the weight of responsibility that being the mayor of a city, that you have to weigh and bear in this ultimate job.
That's very
real.
powerful.
That's
very powerful.
Quite real.
And this question for all of you: what is the mayor's role in that situation? What is in your mind as this is what my city needs from me right now?
Right.
'Cause you've all gone through this.
In that moment, you are the city. You are the embodiment of the sacrifices that police officers make when they go to work every day.
Mhm.
Because the biggest part of our job is making sure when you walk out of that door and kiss your family and go to do whatever you're doing in the city, you're generally going to work. Our biggest part of our job is to make sure you get back home. And then as it relates to our police officers, they walk out of that door knowing that if the occasion calls, that they have to put their life on the line. And police departments at the end of the day are ultimately paramilitary organizations.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you walk into a hospital the way that Mayor Bibb did, you are the city and you are the reflection of the city to that family that just lost everything.
Mm-hmm.
They just suffered the biggest loss that they will ever have, and a memory that will be imprinted on their brains as long as they are alive.
Yeah.
And I think that's what mayors are when they walk in that door, when they walk into that living room, wherever they are. They are a reflection of how the city feels, how we appreciate you, how we're going to be here for you.
Absolutely. And you're right, Larry. We have all been through that. That kind of experience. The day after winning the general election in 2007, I went to my first police officer funeral with then Mayor Street. So it's election night. We have won. Big party, the whole thing, and literally the next morning, go to my first officer killed in the line of duty funeral. My first one as mayor was May 3rd, 2008, and just echoing what the mayors have said. Your role in your job, Mayor Reed said it perfectly. You are the city. There's the empathetic component. There's the strong leader component, but when it's all said and done, it's you and your humanity. It's you and your sensitivity. It's you and your, because then you're not the mayor. You're a brother. You're a son. You're a father. You're a husband. You literally are trying to wrap your arms around this grieving family to see these officers in the kind of pain that they're in. And so I think it's your presence, being visible but not being in the way, because it's not about you. It's about all these folks. Mm-hmm. And it will stick with you for the rest of your life. As police officers, firefighters, I unfortunately lost a bunch of people during my time over the course of the 8 years, and every one of them sticks with you. That's and you will not find that anywhere. It's not in a book. It's not in a manual. You have to figure out your own way of dealing with that, and whatever you're feeling inside, it's not for now. That's for later. That's the what the mayor say. Went home and sat in the dark, had some liquid.
Yeah.
And,
part of
you deal with yourself kind of by yourself or with your crew, but not in that moment. Not in that moment.
And the other part is you're sending a message to your police force. Because all of the other officers want to know what you want to do, what would you do? And they get to see what you would do, fortunately, while they're still there. But most of these folks have families and loved ones and children and wives, and they want to know, because the demand that we ask of police is so great.
Yeah.
Yep. So I am intrigued though, Mayor. So Mayor Reed and I, Mayor Reed served in the General Assembly. I served in the City Council. I was just becoming a City Council member at the age that you became the mayor, at 34. And so I am, and I know you talked about
a long time ago.
Thanks. Thanks. Appreciate that. Wow.
I couldn't resist, man.
This is a rough podcast.
I see.
Just, you don't open doors you don't want to open, because Larry or Mayor Reed, they're gonna walk right through. So, and I
was just saying, it was like, was there internet then?
Damn.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. But none of the social media existed. That's for sure. might have been a good thing. How did you figure out so early on, without that previous government experience, the things to do? And where I was going to go was, and I think Mayor Reed would agree. I mean, governing today. So we were the Great Recession mayors. That was our right. Mayor Reed, Mike Bloomberg, Tom Menino, Antonio Villarosa. I mean, all the people that you know, right? So we're that crew. The mid 2000s into the teens. You all, and there's a ton of you all, male and female, black and white, D's and R's. You're the pandemic mayors. Right before, either right pre, during, or now folks coming in after. And I think that governing today is very, very different than what Mayor Reed and I may have experienced during our time 10, 15 years ago. How did you figure out, without previous government service, what to do and how to deal with it?
That's a great question. I would say, one, I was studying what cities were doing for a long time, right? So urban studies major at American University. And I remember being in the library watching Street Fight, which chronicled Cory Booker's race against Sharp James.
Yeah.
And then as I matured through professionally and academically, I would study what Atlanta was doing under, Mayor Reed, or under Mayor Maynard Jackson, or Mayor Shirley Franklin, right? I studied you, Mayor Nutter, and how you and Bloomberg had a very special relationship as in terms of kind of bringing data innovation technology to cities, particularly on the East Coast. So I was studying the game for a long time, right? And obviously you can be a student of the game, but it's very different when you get in the game. Yeah. And I'd say I really have leaned on, especially in my first 2 years, one, I really leaned on advice from other mayors who've done it before, whether it be, be many, you, Mayor Reed, and Mayor Nutter on this podcast, rather, former Mayor Mike White, who endorsed me in my race in 2021. And
wow, that's terrific.
Yeah. And
that really having to do in that field.
Yeah. And so it really helped me having kind of a counselor of mayors to say, hey, like, this makes sense, this doesn't make sense. I would also say, I think we built one of the best transition plans of any administration in a long time. We had a very focused 100-day agenda. We tracked every initiative. We had a 100-day tracker holding folks accountable to our 100-day plan. So that gave me a strong foundation. But to be very frank, I made a lot of mistakes that my first few months. And the reason why I made those mistakes, number one, I was trying to go too fast. And sometimes in order to be effective and go fast, you got to slow down and bring people along. And I think number two, I underestimated the bureaucracy and how long it would take to shape and change the bureaucracy. But having worked for large corporations and very high achieving CEOs, it gave me a snapshot on what works well as an executive and what doesn't work well as an executive when I became mayor. And I think my executive private sector experience, I think really helped me be ready on day one in a different way than I would have been ready if I was a member of city council.
It's interesting. You reminded me of the former mayor of Philadelphia and former governor, Ed Rendell, not so long ago said to me, I might have shared this with you guys before, said to me, I asked him what the most important thing is. And he said to never take no from your own bureaucracy. Make them prove it to you, is what he said. And it sounds like that you got that lesson early in your tenure.
Yeah.
Let me ask you get into some of the policies that you've brought on, because I'm a big fan of this idea of a 15-minute city, and you really are trying to redo Cleveland in that mold. Tell us what that is and where that transition stands.
It's really simple, and I know there's been some kind of vast right-wing MAGA conspiracy that Democrats want to have these 15-minute cities and lock everybody up and they can't go anywhere. No, that's not what we're talking about. I don't care if you live in Cleveland or Massillon, Ohio, urban America or rural America. Everybody wants the same thing. They want a job they can get to within 15 minutes via a car or reliable, affordable public transit. They want to be able to access healthcare or a pharmacy within 15 minutes to get access to the prescription drugs they need. They want a park or a grocery store or the high quality amenities that make cities and communities great, whether it be a dry cleaners, bars and restaurants, all within 15 minutes. They want walkability, safety, and just a thriving neighborhood and thriving cities. And that's my North Star. And this became real for me during the pandemic. Before I got elected, pandemic happened, everything shut down. My saving grace to help with my mental health during the pandemic was I had a amazing green space, a 15-minute walk from my apartment downtown, right by the water, where I could work out or have an outdoor picnic and congregate with my friends in a safe way. But not everybody had that during the pandemic. That's why we saw a lot of issues around mental health and violent crime and public safety in 2020 and 2021. And so this is not only about kind of walkability and the environment and having equitable green spaces. This is also about safety, right? And thriving communities. And so if we're thinking about urban planning in that way, we can check off so many boxes to meet the needs of our residents. And as any mayor would tell you, we love stealing folks' ideas. I stole this from the mayor of Paris, Mayor Hidalgo.
Yeah.
And now our entire zoning code, all of our city planning work in Cleveland is focused on that 15-minute city objective.
Mayor, I heard what you said. I mean, what a fantastic picture that you painted. Larry, you mentioned there was some vast right-wing conspiracy about the 15-minute city. I must have missed that one. They have so many.
Yeah.
That didn't make my what in the world is the conspiracy about the 15-minute city?
They wanted. There was a lot of rhetoric out there a couple of years ago that 15-minute cities were all about lockdowns, right? Coming out of COVID, we want to lock everybody down, track their steps, right? And it's insane. It's insane. Just another thing to distract people from the real issues.
A lot of conspiracies I can understand. I
Yeah,
can't even
that one I don't
understand that one.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't connect those pieces to anything. Interesting.
Tell me about getting your arms around managing your relationship with the state. Who was governor at the time? What's that been like? How have you been treated, given how strongly conservative Ohio has become
Yeah.
during the watch?
Well, I know that the national media likes to think that Ohio is a red state, and it is a red state, but deep down inside, I still think it's a purple state. We Democrats has got to get our act together in Ohio to win more elections, to be more competitive. But you know, like you were, Mayor Reed, I'm a blue city in a red state.
Yeah.
And I don't have the luxury of not trying to find ways to work with Republicans across the aisle. And you may experience this too when you were Mayor Reed in Georgia. The issues really in Ohio aren't R&D. It's really urban rule. I'll never forget, in one of my first Ohio Mayor's Alliance meetings, I had a Republican member of the Ohio House tell me this. He said, Mayor Bibb, if you ran your city like we run our townships, you'd be a lot better off. There's a lot of coded racist language in that statement.
He's lucky he didn't say that to me, and I would be broke.
I had to compose myself.
I know you did.
But that's the mentality we're dealing with in many ways here in Ohio. And so I've had to really fight these attacks on home rule and preemption. And whether it's around passing common sense gun laws at the local level to keep our streets safe and keep illegal guns out of the hands of juveniles, whether it's around protecting the income tax revenue we need to hire police officers, to hire firefighters, to keep our streets safe and secure. They're always attacking cities, but they don't want to admit that the big cities in Ohio are responsible for nearly 90% of the state's gross domestic product. Right.
Same thing in Pennsylvania.
And so, you know,
my comment.
Yeah.
Township guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, what would you say? What would you say, Mayor Reed?
I said, that's beautiful, but then we would all be broke. And who would pay for the wonderful hotels that you stay in while you're sitting in Atlanta at the Capitol?
Yeah, exactly. But I will say this. I do have a great relationship with my Governor Mike DeWine.
Yeah.
He's a common sense Republican. You know, he's been very helpful on issues around public safety and economic development. You know,
don't say too much good stuff about him. You don't want.
I know. But I will say this: I'll work with anybody who shares my vision.
Help him, Reed. Help him.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's you know, I had 3 governors during my time. But you know, General Assembly always split in some way, shape, or form. I think during all my time that Republicans were in charge of most of my time, Republicans were in charge of the General Assembly, both House and Senate. 3 different governors, 2 Ds and an R, right in the middle of my time. And you know, a lot of it was just showing up. I spent a lot of time in Harrisburg. And what I would often hear from them is, you know, we might not always agree with you on all the things you want to do, but I mean, you've been the most visible guy out of Philadelphia in a long, long period of time. And, you know, that in and of itself, you know, brought some respect and just some common sense. We did what we said we were going to do. If I made a commitment, we kept it. You know, if you gave us an opportunity, you know, and I would really try to emphasize the whole notion of, you know, because Republicans are supposed to believe in home rule, local control. And, you know, I'm like, I'm just trying to run the place. Like, we have some sense, right? I'm not asking for any money. I'm asking for authorization because, you know, we have to go to General Assembly if we want to, you know, have a new tax or expand a tax that's authorized by the state. I'm not even asking you to vote for it. Just give us the authorization to do what we need to do. And a lot of times they did. 67 counties in Pennsylvania, 5 of us, Philly, Bucks, Chester, Delaware, Montgomery counties, 5 of the 67 are 40% of the economy of the entire state, and we're a net tax contributor. And so, I would walk in with, we actually do a little bit, we're not just, run around with a hat in our hand. We are contributing. And, but, and as Mayor Reed said, but when folks want to go to a concert, want to go to a great restaurant, want to, if they're not a Steelers fan, maybe they're an Eagles fan and want to come to a game, whatever the case may be. I mean, this is the place. So, you can try to paint us as Sodom and Gomorrah on the Delaware, but we actually have some pretty good stuff going on here. Your kids are here, getting a great education at 100-some universities in the tri-state area. So, come on now, let's be serious.
Yeah, I mean, my lesson was I had grown up at the Capitol, so I felt as at home at the Capitol as I did at City Hall, and so my Capitol was 303 steps away. And so the tool I used was to do everything in person.
Smart.
I didn't do anything in the newspaper. I didn't do emails or texts. If I had something to do, I got up and got my steps in that day.
Yeah, makes sense.
And use physicality because it's so more effective when you're looking somebody in the eye.
Right.
People become superheroes on text messages and on emails, press.
Mm-hmm.
So what I found was physicality and personal relationships. And it really cut down on all the noise. Once one of my dear friends told me, one thing you got to remember about Republicans is we can't win without the kooks. So anytime you see me doing something that is crazy, you just know that I didn't mean it for you. I got to keep the people with me. And if you're governing with that knowledge,
yeah,
I got a guy, brilliant businessman, Ivy League educated, acting a complete buffoon, and I would just go see the guy. And I mean, you can't win without the kooks.
Can't win without the kooks.
Can't win without the kooks.
Wow.
Mayor Bibb, you are our partner on this podcast is Accelerator for America, and you are co-chair of Accelerator's National Housing Crisis Task Force. Can you tell us a bit about what you're doing in terms of housing? Because you really are sort of paving the way in terms of innovative models.
Yeah, this is one issue that I think unites Democrats, Republicans, Independents across the country. We have to fix our country's housing affordability crisis. So really honored to be working with Mayor Dickens of Atlanta and Governor Spencer Cox of Utah on this work. We've offered some common sense solutions at the state and local level to really influence the federal agenda around housing. Everything from streamlining the permitting processes at HUD to making some game changer investments in innovative housing solutions like modular housing, which what we're doing in Cleveland, on-site, ramping up that housing, which is the jobs and housing play. I would also say this, we as mayors, we can't do this by ourselves in terms of our balance sheets and our budgets. And that's why we need a federal government that's actually working, that's expanding LIHTC, expanding opportunity zone investments, and making sure they're working with governors and mayors to fix our housing crisis.
Are you a proponent of or a follower of the abundance movement? And
I don't care what you call it. I'm a proponent for getting rid of the red tape and the bureaucracy that undermines our ability to create more housing in our cities. We got a supply issue and a demand issue. And we're undergoing a massive permitting reform effort here in Cleveland. We just acquired a $2 million investment in Salesforce. Before that, we didn't have a one-stop shop customer view of grants, loans, incentives for our customers. We're fixing that. We're launching our brand new digital permitting process later this month. Before that, you have to go to 4 or 5 departments to get a permit signed. That doesn't make any sense, right? We also just got DocuSign at City Hall here in Cleveland. Again, City Hall has to move at the speed of business. And so you can call it abundance, you can call it getting shit done, but whatever it is called, people want to see results. And that's what we're focused on here in Cleveland.
Yeah, I'm going to call it the Bibbification.
Yeah. Love it.
No, Bibbify that thing, baby.
Vivify that thing.
Better get a trademark on that, man.
Yeah, I might ASAP.
I could see the bumper sticker already on the back of the car.
Vivify.
Well, you also are a real proponent of economic growth.
Yeah.
I mean, you're really building, and talk about that. Talk about the investments. Some, you know, there's safety net politics, and then there's growth politics. And it seems to me that you're duly paying attention to the safety net issues, while also investing in ameliorating against them in the future by investing in growth.
Yeah, listen, Cleveland once led America's first industrial revolution in the early 1900s. The world's first billionaire, John D. Rockefeller, got his start in Cleveland. Standard Oil was founded in Cleveland, Ohio. And at the time, Cleveland was the 5th largest city in America. But, you know, we all know the story. Globalization happens, the hollowing out of the middle class, particularly in America's heartland in states like Ohio. And over the last 2 decades, the city did not have a business plan for growth and prosperity. So we just launched our brand new business plan for growth and prosperity called the Cleveland Era, which is short for Economic Resurgence in Action. And it has 3 key pillars. Number 1, we want to lead America's industrial revival. We're doing that through a couple of ways. We're pursuing a nearly $2 billion modernization of our airport. We are deploying nearly $100 million of capital to turn 1,000 acres of brownfield land into shovel-ready job sites in Black and brown neighborhoods in our city. And we're also pursuing a $5 billion effort to make Cleveland a 2 waterfront city from the shores of Lake Erie to the banks of the Cuyahoga River, with the support of folks like Dan Gilbert, who's committed $4 billion to that effort here in Cleveland. Secondly, the same tools we use to support our downtown business districts, we're using in neighborhoods. We're going to launch our first ever neighborhood tax increment financing district to spur more prosperity and jobs in the east side of the city. We also just launched a $100 million housing investment fund with KeyBank and LISC, bringing on nearly 3,000 more units of housing over the next 5 years. And for all this to work, government has to be innovative, dynamic, and modern. So everything from our permanent reform efforts to making sure we modernize and digitize city services in this Cleveland era, these are the kind of policies and investments that will make Cleveland the new capital of the Midwest, in my opinion, and maybe hopefully steal some companies from Atlanta and Philly over the next couple of years.
There you go.
Hey.
I love it. I tell you, I remember Mayor Bloomberg invited me to a party at the foot of the Statue of Liberty. It actually wasn't his party. It was Coca-Cola celebrating their 125th anniversary. And so the dinner was at the foot of the Statue of Liberty. You cannot imagine how beautiful it was. And so they have this fireworks display. And Muhtar Kent was the CEO of Coca-Cola at the time. And I looked to my right, Michael, and Mayor Bloomberg is saying, Coca-Cola should be right here. I mean, I was completely aghast. He's totally pitching, and he said, "Look at that skyline." And from the Statue of Liberty, that skyline was.
That's amazing.
Fireworks are going on.
You're like, uh-oh.
And Michael Bloomberg has his arm around Muhtar Kent.
Right.
And this is where Coca-Cola needs to be. Needless to say, I removed his hand. I was like Jerry Maguire when he showed up at his last.
That's amazing. Show me the
money. Well, you know, Mike believes in ABC. Always be closing.
Yeah, contact, man.
What's ABC? Always be closing.
Always be closing.
Always be closing.
Full contact.
And when he puts the hand on you, man, it's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard. He did that on Kasim. He did that on. You know, Mike's got that sense of humor.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm sure he was serious.
Had killer instinct.
Yes, I'm sure he was serious, but he did it just to get under your skin.
Playing.
No,
he was totally pitching.
Serious.
Muhtar sitting next to me at the anniversary occasion.
Yes. Hey,
But
never miss
that
a
does
moment.
raise an interesting question, Mayor Bibb. How much of your time is spent actually trying to recruit
A
businesses?
lot now. Now that we've got a strong foundation, a clear business case, and a clear business plan, if we're blessed to get reelected for a second term, we're going to be very aggressive in trying to attract and retain more companies back to Cleveland. That's my number one, outside of public safety. Growing jobs, growing our economy is my number one priority.
I can't
by the way,
keep track
guys,
of all you guys.
I'm sorry, but I just want to note Mayor Bibb is up for re-election in November,
November 4th.
with scant opposition. So
Of course.
I think we're looking at the current mayor and the next mayor of Cleveland.
Just on the political front, Cleveland have term limits. I can't keep
No,
track of all
no
the
term
cities.
limits.
Okay,
No term limits.
gotcha.
Oh wow. Oh yeah, this is interesting. Yeah.
He's gonna do it.
Looking at-
He's gonna do a Joe. He's gonna do a Joe Riley on.
I don't know about all that.
They do a Raz Baraka. I mean, Raz has no term limits in Newark.
and he does not appear to be limiting himself.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, it's good stuff. It's good stuff. Wow, proud of you, man.
Thanks.
Very proud. I was referencing before. When we're at the conference or NLC or African American Mayors Association, Democratic Mayors Association, when I see you and Woodfin and Carter and a bunch of you, Larry, there's a whole crew of these 30, 40 something year old mayors, some of whom do have term limits. And I mean, some of these folks will term out in their 40s.
Mm.
I didn't become mayor until I was 50. Right?
Yeah, I termed out at 48.
Yeah, I mean, they've got whole second and third careers ahead of them in that situation. But yeah, it's a totally different and new and exciting leadership across the country, I think the mayors and the cities will continue to lead this country into a better and brighter future. They're more credible than virtually any other electeds anywhere. You're in people's lives every day. They don't even think about it. I'm sure no one in Cleveland was wondering whether the water was going to come out of the spigot this morning.
No.
And clean and drinkable or whatever. That's your water department. The lights work, the traffic signals. Somebody's getting a permit for something. That's government at its best and finest. And when things are going along so well that you don't really notice, that's when you got something going on.
Yeah, Mayor Bibb, we like to say, that's one of the reasons we do this podcast. We like to say that in cities, there are really three political parties: Republicans, Democrats, and mayors, who have no choice but to get practical stuff done.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what you're doing. We'd love to keep in touch with you and get updates as you go, because you're really an inspiration, I think, and valuable to this audience and to the nation, because with all the stupidity coming out of Washington, D.C., I do think that this generation of mayors that you're talking about, Mayor Nutter, are an example for how to still come together and get stuff done.
Yeah.
Mayor Bibb, we can't thank you enough for your service
guys.
and for taking the time.
Thank you, man. Have a good
me.
and safe weekend.
Well, that's it for this episode of How to Really Run a City. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and tell your friends about us, because we really want to widen the conversation. By 2050, something like 2/3 of the world will live in cities. As cities go, so goes the nation, and so goes the world. For now, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.